Hey everybody, hope you're having a great week. Hey, we are excited to have Pastor Brent Cunningham here this weekend. He's going to share a couple of bits that you can go deeper with our weekend message in just a moment. But every week we start out with this need to know moment where there's any announcements or anything going on that you and the people in your connections need to know. For this week, it's simply this, that one of the announcements we shared, the announcement we shared on the weekend is how awesome it is when we get to have conversations with new believers, new people of the church, and be able to say, when they ask, where is the life change happening in the church? And we can say, man, it's in our connections. It's faithfully in our connections. Weekend services are fantastic. It's necessary and important for us to come together, worship together, fellowship together. Where we see primarily the life change happening is in our connections, where you guys are at. Sometimes it happens quickly, sometimes it happens over time, but what our connection groups are engaged in is a life-changing thing. Thank you for being a part of that. So just wanted to celebrate that as we celebrated that on the weekend. So Pastor Brent, come up and share.
Absolutely. Hey, so excited that you guys were a part of this weekend service and thrilled that you're connecting in small groups. So this weekend we looked at James chapter 1, verse 27, which James says, religion that is pure and faultless, which what he means to say is worship of God that's authentic. Worship of God that's authentic involves something really key. It's not just what we believe, but he addresses something real specific. He points out the most marginalized people in society. He says it involves visiting widows and orphans in their afflictions, which is sort of an Old Testament tag phrase to say the people who are the most marginalized in your community. And so I guess one question initially that I would ask of you is, who would you say is overlooked? Who's overlooked in your specific community? Who are the ones who maybe don't quite have the voice? Who are the ones who are easily exploited? Another question I think to look at and consider is this idea of, we looked at a number of different historical examples of how the church has responded throughout the centuries from the very first followers of Jesus, because they took his words really seriously. Like they actually believed him when he said things like, I'm identifying myself with the needy, with the broken, with the poor. And so he said things like, when you visited me in prison, when you clothed me, when you fed me. And of course the response is like, when did we ever do that to you? And he said, when you did it for the least of these brothers or sisters of mine, you did it for me. Jesus identifies himself with the marginalized. And so in response to that, the early Christians did all these sorts of things, and we looked at lots of historical examples. Hospitals today are the result of what these early Christians did. Can you think of other examples, historically speaking, of when followers of Jesus leaned in, stepped up, and cared for people who were sick or alone, or hurting, afraid, whatever that might be? And then lastly, we talked about some of the practical ways that we as a local community of followers of Jesus are doing that here, RFK and many, many other examples. I would encourage you guys to talk about, maybe even as a small group, say, hey, what would it look like if we as a small group decided to serve, to volunteer, to give our time, to give resources, whatever it might be. Think about it, pray about it, to one of these local examples and arms of caring for, again, this phrase, the orphans and the widows, the most marginalized. So I hope that you guys as a group, I hope this doesn't just become a conversation. I hope it really translates into action, into you becoming participants in some way of continuing the work of Jesus and his kingdom. Thanks for being together. Thanks for being Timberline. And I hope you guys have a great week.